Today, we're going to be looking at the 6 trig functions. Okay, so you got to know the 6 trig functions. The first trig function is sine, which we abbreviate as sine, which in a triangle is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. The opposite side over the hypotenuse. The second one is cosine, which we abbreviate as cos, which is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. The third one is the tangent of an angle, which we abbreviate as tan, and that is the opposite side over the adjacent side. Then we have the cofunctions. The cofunction of sine is cosecant, which is abbreviated CSC, and that is just the reciprocal of sine, so it's the hypotenuse over the opposite. And then the cofunction of cosine is the secant. Got a C in there. Which is SEC, which is the hypotenuse over the adjacent. And the last one is the cotangent, which is COT, which is the reciprocal of tangent, which is the adjacent over the opposite. So those are our 6 basic trig functions. Okay. So, let's say we have the point 6, 8 that we graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What we do is we draw a line to the origin, and then we draw a line from the point to the nearest x-axis. Do not ever draw it to the y-axis. It's always to the x-axis. Here's the angle that we're talking about. It's always by the origin. Now, we know this side is 6, this side is 8. How do we find the hypotenuse if we have a right triangle and we know 2 sides of a triangle? Chirp, 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 chirp. I hear the crickets chirping. If you know 2 sides of a right triangle, how do you find the third side? It's on some kind of paper on the front of the room. The Pythagorean theorem. At least somebody remembers a little geometry around here. All right. So we know that c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Doesn't matter which one's a and which one b. 6 squared plus 8 squared is 36 plus 64, which is 100. If we take the square root of both sides, c equals 10. So I have a 6, 8, 10 triangle. That is a Pythagorean triple. All right, so let's start finding our functions. The sine of theta. What's the side that is opposite of this angle? 6, 8, or 10? 8, because it's all the way on the other side. It does not touch that angle. What is our hypotenuse? 10, because our hypotenuse is opposite the right angle. Always find the hypotenuse first. If you figure out where the hypotenuse is, you can find opposite and adjacent super easy. Okay? So sine of theta is 4/5. What's the cosine of theta? Well, what's our adjacent side? 6, hypotenuse, 10, so it's 3/5. What's the tangent of theta? So we go opposite, 8, over adjacent, 6, which gives us 4/3. What is our cosecant of theta? Remember, cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. So it would be 10 over 8, which is 5/4. Our secant of theta is what over what? 10 over 6, which is 5/3. Okay, 5/3. And finally, our cotangent of theta. 6 over 8, which is 3/4. Okay? So those are the basic 6 trig functions. Okay? So you need to know the basic 6 trig functions. All right. Let's do another one. Let's say we now have a point at -3, 5. Now this one's going to involve radicals. So, draw where we're at. -3, 5. You draw from your point straight to the origin and then down to the nearest x-axis. Okay? So this is -3, this is 5. How do we find the hypotenuse? C squared equals a squared plus b squared. C squared equals -3 squared plus 5 squared. C squared equals 9 plus 25. C squared equals 34. So C equals the square root of 34. All right. So what is the sine of theta? Well, sine is the opposite side, so it is 5 over square root of 34. Can't leave square root of 34 on the bottom, so we multiply top and bottom by square root of 34. So it's 5 square root of 34 over 34. That's how it's properly written. Cosine of theta. What's the adjacent side? -3, hypotenuse, square root of 34. So if we multiply top and bottom by square root of 34, it's, there we are. Tangent of theta. Opposite, 5 adjacent. So it's negative 5/3. Quit right there. Cosecant of theta. It's the square root of 34 over 5. Don't have to do anything there because the radical's in the numerator. So we don't have to rationalize the denominator. We're already done. Secant of theta. Over negative 3. And cotangent of theta. Negative 3 over 5. Can you handle that? You'll have 2 problems where you have to do the 6 trig functions.